The UFC already has some amazing fights lined up for 2023, and I think that this is going to create a lot of movement in the UFC rankings. So today, as you can see in the title, I'm going to be going through every division and giving you my top riser, so someone who I think is drastically going to move up the rankings or up in the division, and my top faller, someone who I think is drastically going to fall down the UFC division, down the rankings. And let me just explain some examples that are not going to be on this list. So if Tony Ferguson was to retire this year and lose one more fight and be bounced from the rankings and probably the UFC, that wouldn't be considered like the my top faller. I'm talking about someone like if Islam Makhachev lost the belt and then got knocked out 2 times in a row, that would be like a drastic downfall. You know what I'm saying? Or like if Tony Ferguson was to knock out 3 people in a row and win the belt, that'd be a drastic rise. You know what I'm saying? So that's my examples of like rises and fallers. So these are going to be quite drastic, and my opinions on these fighters and what I think is going to happen in 2023. So without further ado, let me get straight into the flyweight division with Muhammad Mokaev, who I think is going to rise in 2023. He's ranked number 14 in the division, and I think that this guy is going to get 2 or 3 very big wins in 2023, probably at UFC 286 in London, and then maybe another time before the year is over, and end up in the top 5, top 6 of the division, I reckon. I reckon with his next win, he could probably end up top 10, and then before the end of the year, be ranked top 5 or top 6. So I would say that's quite a drastic movement. I think a lot of people would agree with this one. He's got a very good style. He's a very young guy, undefeated, good grappler. So I don't think many people would really disagree with this pick. If that didn't happen, I would also be a bit like not surprised. I know he's had some struggles in his career before he gets the finishes that he gets. Um, but I digress. Okay, so Muhammad Mokaev, I think he's going to be a riser in 2023. And we move on to the faller of the division. I think that Alex Perez is going to fall quite drastically in the flyweight division and possibly end up unranked or at the bottom of the top 15 before the year is over. I know he's only lost to the best guys, but his losses have looked really, really like there's a lot of work that needs to be done, I guess, in certain aspects of his game, and I just can see him getting bad matchups more than anything. Like he's a good fighter, but I can see him getting bad matchups for where he's at the division. I mean, he's ranked number 6. I think they're talking about him fighting Manel Kape. I booked that fight, by the way, first, and they stole it. You know, Dana White, just hire me, bro. I know you want to, bro. I know you want to hire me, Dana. Like I literally run this shit. I literally make every fight that the fans want to see, bro. Dan Hooker versus Drew Dober. Everyone wants to see that. You know what I'm saying? And I booked that. So please make that fight. You know what I'm saying? Alex Perez with Manel Kape. I booked that. Now it's becoming a thing. Apparently. I don't know. Maybe not. But that's what I would do. So I digress. I think Alex Perez is going to fall quite drastically. I can see him losing to Manel Kape and then losing one more time before the year is up. And, you know, maybe leaving the UFC or maybe being at the bottom of the rankings with some rebuilding to do. But that's my opinion on the flyweight division. So I'm going to close these tabs. We're going to move on to bantamweight. My riser, Adrian Yanez. Pretty obvious choice for a riser. He's been on an incredible streak of wins. I can see him getting better as he rises up, and I can see him getting some tough tests, including the guy that I'm going to put as the faller in the division, which we'll get to in a moment. But I think Adrian Yanez is going to make some good movement next year, or this year, I guess, you know. It's a new year. So I think Adrian Yanez is going to make some movement. I can see him fighting in San Antonio. I can see him fighting on a pay-per-view before the year is done. And I think he will get 2 knockouts before the year is up, minimum. And be in the top 10, top 6, top 7 before the year is done. And be talking about title elimination bouts before the year is done. I really like Adrian Yanez. I think he's a good fighter. So I'm going to move on to the faller in the division, who I think he may end up fighting soon. I'm going to go... Oh, fuck, I just closed it. Fuck. God damn it. Alright, let me just type it in, bro. We got it. We straight. I'll type it in. My faller in the division is going to be Rob Font. Currently ranked number 6. Just lost very badly to Marlon Vera. Also lost to Jose Aldo. This dude just gets dropped too much, man. He's a good fighter, but he gets dropped so much. That's going to be really, really hard for him to rise up this division. I can definitely see him getting some bad matchups. I know Adrian Yanez might favor him a little bit, but I can see Yanez winning that fight, just dropping him a few times, and then getting fed to someone really, really scary coming up the rankings, or just outside the rankings, or maybe Saeed Nurmagomedov or something like that. I just see Rob Font getting tough matchups. Again, it's not that he's a bad fighter, it's just I feel like he has a bad style for the best guys of the division, and especially for the guys coming up. And some of his attributes are really not inclined to rising as they are to maybe falling down the division a few spots with 1 or 2 more losses before he rebuilds and maybe finds a new style or fixes some holes in his game. But, Rob Font's a good fighter. I like his style, but I can definitely see him dropping a bit in this bantamweight division to the bottom of the top 15. So, that's my pick for bantamweight. We move on to the featherweight division. My riser. Maybe not the one you would expect. I'm going to go with Nathaniel Wood. I think Nathaniel Wood will end up top 10 before the year is done. I could see him fighting maybe an Alex Caceres soon, or a Jonathan Pierce, a Darren Elkins, a couple of those fights next year, and then ending up with someone, on the way down, maybe a Calvin Kattar, if he gets some good wins, or someone a bit lower in the top 10. I'm kind of blanking on who's in the top 10 right now. Maybe he gets Bryce Mitchell if he decides to come back, something like that. I could definitely see that happening. So either way, I think Nathaniel Wood does have a good chance to end up in the top 10 next year. And rise up the division a bit. And I could see him becoming a bit of a force in the division. He's looked really good in his last few fights. I know we were all a bit worried about how he'd look at featherweight, but he's looked good. So I can see Nathaniel Wood rising, and I don't think a lot of people would have picked him in this spot. A lot of people would have picked Ilya Topuria. I could definitely see him making big movement. But again, it's not about like movement that's kind of expected. These are like drastic kind of rises that I'm predicting here. So I'm going to say Nathaniel Wood will end up top 10 before the 2023 is over. And my faller, I hate to do this. I really hate to do this. My computer doesn't even want to load him because it's just, no one wants to see it. But I think Max Holloway will drop in 2023. I think he will lose to Arnold Allen. And I could definitely see him losing to someone else before the year is done. Maybe he gets a bounce back win, but I can see him losing to Arnold Allen and kind of ending up in like that 5 or 6 spot. And not really being anywhere near the title picture, and kind of be looking for his future in UFC. Like, what's his next move now that he's not near the title in featherweight? Like, he's not even the top ranked guy, you know what I mean? Even if Volkanovski was to lose the belt, you know what I mean? That's where I see him at, like very locked out of the top of the division. And kind of in the spot that Jose Aldo was in when he lost back-to-back for the belt. So that's my 2 picks for featherweight. I think Nathaniel Wood will rise, and I think, unfortunately, Max Holloway will drop a few spots next year to a spot that he really hasn't been for years, and end up at like 5 or 6 or 7 maybe. Depends on how his fights go, but we'll have to see, won't we? So we're going to move on to the lightweight division. This one's going to be an interesting one. I think a lot of people would pick this guy to rise. ARMAN TSARUKYAN. I'm going to say ARMAN TSARUKYAN will be in top 4, top 5 in 2023. If not fighting for the belt early 2024. You know what I mean? Like, this guy is about to be in the title picture. I truly believe that. I think a lot of people would agree. ARMAN TSARUKYAN is going to be top 5, top 4 next year. It's really not much else to explain. He's just that good. I shouldn't have picked Ismagulov against him. He looked so good. I think he's finally coming into form, and I can definitely see him ending up in the top 5. And I could see him rematching Gamrot, or getting a Justin Gaethje fight, or a Michael Chandler fight, and then ending up in that top spot and ending up fighting Dustin Poirier maybe, or Charles Oliveira next year. So I think big future ahead for ARMAN TSARUKYAN in 2023. And speaking of, for my faller, I'm gonna pick Charles do Bronx Oliveira. I think Charles Oliveira. Can you fuck off? Sorry, this stupid fucking thing just came up. Anyways, I think Oliveira is going to lose at least one more fight in 2023. I think I could see him getting finished again in 2023 and dropping out of that pound for pound kind of top spot and falling into maybe a 2-fight losing streak, a 3-fight losing streak. I know that people really like Charles Oliveira, but I can definitely see some tough matchups coming his way, and I can see him dropping a lot in the rankings and being replaced by guys like Beneil Dariush and ARMAN TSARUKYAN and Dustin Poirier at the top of the rankings in terms of the title picture, and having to get some wins against some lower ranked guys before he gets back in that title picture. So My pick for the faller of 2023 for the lightweight division is Charles Oliveira. I can see him dropping to 5 or 6 again, like Max Holloway, really, and kind of being left without the title picture in his sights. So that's my pick. Moving on to the welterweight division, we got Jack Della Maddalena as my riser. A lot of people are really into Jack Della Maddalena right now. He's a good fighter. A lot of finishes. Lot of knockouts. His boxing is very, very crisp, and I can see him getting some very good matchups and ending up top 15, top 13, top 10 in 2023 with the right matchups. And I think the UFC is interested in that. This guy's got a lot of potential in the UFC, and I can definitely see him making some very drastic movement to the top. I don't feel like there's much to explain with a lot of these. It's more like the fallers that I really have to explain. So I'm going to move on to my faller for the welterweight division. This one may be a bit surprising, but I think if you hear me out, you will kind of understand what I'm saying. This one's going to be the most controversial, I think. My faller in the welterweight division is Colby Chaos Covington. Right now, he's currently ranked number 2. He's a former interim champion. He's fought Kamaru Usman twice. 2 very, very close fights. A very, very respected fighter at welterweight. But I could see Colby Covington losing a couple fights in 2023, including a fight to Khamzat Chimaev. And then I could definitely see him getting some tough matchups from the UFC, because I know Dana White and him don't exactly have the best relationship. And I can just see Colby Covington getting kind of passed by the new age of the division. Khamzat Chimaev is a scary matchup for him. I know there's a lot of intrigue there. I would love to see that fight and see how it goes. I think Chimaev would win quite quickly. Unfortunately, I'm a Colby fan. I'm going to let that be known. But I can see Colby losing to Khamzat Chimaev and then Shavkat Rakhmonov at some point in 2023. And I can definitely see him beating some of the lower ranked guys of the division. But some of these guys that are coming up that are kind of phenoms, I can definitely see him having some bad matchups against. So my pick for the faller of welterweight is going to be Colby Covington. I can see him ending up ranked 6, ranked 7, ranked 8 after some losses in 2023. And I can see him being replaced by guys like Khamzat Chimaev, Shavkat Rakhmonov at the top of that division. And we'll definitely see how it goes. I like Colby. I don't want him to be the faller of the division, but I have to pick honestly. I have to pick unbiasedly. That's what I do. I tell you the truth, all right? I'm the best analyst in MMA, literally bar none, all right? Middleweight, I'm going to move on. My riser is going to be Bo Nickel. I do not have a faller in this one. I'm going to give you 2 options, though. So my riser, Bo Nickel, I can definitely see him, the UFC just Sean O'Malleying this dude, and just giving him a fight in March. He's fighting Jamie Pickett. I can see him finishing Jamie Pickett in round 1. They always do. And then I could see them throwing him straight into a, top 15 guy, or someone right below the top 15, maybe like a Gerald Meerschaert or Bruno Silva, Joaquin Buckley, someone like that, or Darren Till at the highest. And then I can see him getting like a top 5, top 4, someone that he can finish and get a title shot, maybe like a Derek Brunson, or someone that doesn't really have the jiu-jitsu pedigree that Bo Nickel does, or grappling pedigree that he does. And I can see Bo Nickel ending up in the top, I don't want to say top 5, but I can see an Alex Pereira type rise for Bo Nickel in 2022. I can see him being ranked for sure top 10 before 2023 is over. At minimum, the UFC is going to push this dude. So I think this guy's going to be ending up top 10 in 2023. That's my pick for the riser. For the middleweight faller, I got 2, so I didn't bring up a screen. I think Derek Brunson and Marvin Vettori are both kind of gonna drop off in 2023. I think both of them will lose. Marvin Vettori is just not that good. And Derek Brunson's just not good either. I think they're gonna get passed up by guys like Dricus du Plessis and Bo Nickel and Andre Muniz. Some guys coming up outside the rankings as well. I think Bo Nickel's gonna make a rise, and Derek Brunson, Marvin Vettori are gonna fall off a bit in 2023. So those are my picks for middleweight. We move on to the light heavyweight division. My riser, I'm going to go with Tyson Pedro. I think Tyson Pedro will end up top 10 in 2023. He was already ranked before his injury. The UFC's been giving him absolute bums. So I think after this UFC 284 fight, he's going to be getting a ranked opponent, top 15, top 14. I can see him beating like a Khalil Roundtree Jr. or Paul Craig, Volkan Oezdemir, one of those guys, and then getting a top 10 opponent, or possibly someone that's my faller for 2023. But I can definitely see Tyson Pedro ending up top 10 in 2023 heading into big fights with like Jamahal Hill or you know Nikita Krylov, guys like that. So I can definitely see him ending up in that kind of area by the 2023's end. So that's my pick as my riser, and my faller, someone that Tyson Pedro could potentially beat, end up in the top 10. Anthony Smith. Anthony Smith's just not that good to me, bro. Like Anthony Smith is really just. I feel like he's been given matchups where like it's just all fallen into place kind of perfectly for him, and his experience and his jiu-jitsu is going to get him quite far. But I think skill for skill, like he's not really one of the best guys in the division, and I can definitely see him just falling to the wayside in 2023 and ending up, you know, outside the top 10, having to rebuild again, and not being as lucky as he was before, and kind of losing to some of these guys coming up that are very high level, and being passed by kind of the division. Like I think the division has gone through a bit of a slump, and it's rising up now with like Ankalaev and Jamahal Hill, and um, even the unranked guys like Carlos Ulberg and Tyson Pedro and stuff like that coming up. So I can definitely see Anthony Smith falling to the wayside in 2023. So I'm going to move on to my final two that I'm probably the most passionate about, especially this one. My riser for 2023 in the heavyweight division is Curtis Blaydes. Curtis Blaydes is going to be heavyweight champion. Curtis Blaydes is going to be... Listen to me, bro. Listen to me. Sit still. Sit down. Listen. Curtis Blaydes is going to be heavyweight champion. I think Curtis Blaydes beats Cyril Gane. He beats Sergey Pavlovich. He has a decent chance to beat Stipe Miocic, who's old and about to retire. And I think those guys have a good chance against Francis Ngannou. Now, I know Curtis Blaydes has lost to him twice, and they're not going to do that trilogy if they can avoid it. And even though Curtis Blaydes has a decent chance against Ngannou, I would pick Ngannou to beat him again just because of his technical advancements. I think Curtis Blaydes has a better chance against John Jones, honestly, than he does against Ngannou, which is just weird to say. But, Curtis Blaydes has improved drastically, so I can definitely see him becoming heavyweight champion at the end of 2023, depending on how the division works out, or interim heavyweight champion, I would say. I'm going to say he's going to be interim champion by 2023's end, and Francis Ngannou is not going to fight again. But if he does, then Curtis Blaydes will end up fighting for the belt in 2023. Somehow, some way. I think Curtis Blaydes will become... or be in contention for the heavyweight championship in 2023, or be in position to fight for it in 2024. You know what I mean? I'm going to say Curtis Blaydes is going to be the #1 contender undoubtedly in 2023, if not the champion. Okay, interim champion, #1 contender, or champion. Those are my three, like what I see for Curtis Blaydes in 2023. Okay, so big rise for Curtis Blaydes coming. I think it's his time. I like Curtis Blaydes. I think it's his time. Okay, for my downfall, last one, Derrick Lewis. I like Derrick Lewis, but I think his time is kind of numbered at heavyweight. He's kind of being passed by the division now. Guys like Sergey Pavlovich, Sergey Spivak, Taito Ivasa, Curtis Blaydes. I know he beat Curtis Blaydes, but it was just Curtis Blaydes being a fucking idiot, which he stopped doing. You know what I mean? Like, he's beating like the Chris Dorcases of the division. Like the Blagoy Ivanovs, and he barely won. So... yeah, I just think Derrick Lewis' time is kind of numbered at heavyweight, and I think he's on the downfall. So let me know what you think down below. Who do you think is rising up in 2023? Who do you think is going to be on the decline? And let me know what you want, other videos you want down below. All right, I'll see you guys in the next video. See you, boys.